because I'm progress. All right, excellent. All right, so thank you and welcome again. And thank you for joining me today to do a little roundtable question and answer with the master instructor. So we have a good opportunity here to just pick each other's brains and kind of figure out what has worked well for folks, and we'll kind of work together. So I think what I'm going to do is start with asking the master instructors a few questions and give them an opportunity to answer. And then we'll open it up to the rest of the instructors just to ask some questions and whatever has been on your mind that you might want to ask. So my first question, I want to actually address this to Keith. So it's not uncommon for participants to share a lot. How do you typically handle this to ensure that you remain on time? If you've got that one participant that just really is sharing a lot.
Sure. One of the things that we do typically, we do use breakout rooms and for scenarios and for other things that throughout the class. And so one strategy would be that if you're getting one person that's dominating, ask specifically for someone, maybe not by name, but can somebody in group 3 respond to that particular question, and kind of encourage others to get engaged a little bit more. So that one person is not dominating. The other opportunity that we've taken and used before as well is have the co-presenter, if there is one, connect with that person via private chat or something along those lines to let them know that we want to make sure we get others involved in the conversation as well. Mm-hmm. It's not just like working in a classroom full of young people. It's okay. Well, let me call on somebody. A different perspective for a bit. So I think we have to kind of just own that, take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and redirect some things and maybe get some other folks that are involved that are intimidated possibly because the way the other person that is answering all the questions is presenting themselves. So just some different strategies, maybe redirect and pull somebody in that from a different group that you've got organized, or somebody else who you think may have a good response to that question.
Yeah, thank you. I like that how you said that it might make the other participants feel intimidated to answer and to speak up. So I do like that. I like that perspective as well, which I think charges us as instructors even more to really kind of pause and try to figure out how to give other people opportunities and time to speak. Because we do certainly learn best that way. A lot of people learn best by being able to talk and hear themselves practice the different, algae application, if that's the particular exercise. So good. Thank you, Keith, for that. Any other master instructors have any input, or anybody else have any other things they would add to that, or things that they've done that have worked? If not, moving right along then. All right, so our next question, this is for Jeremy. So timing is a challenge. Julian, were you going to add something? I think I see you unmuted.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, all right, I don't want to miss you. All right, thank you. So Jeremy, so timing is a challenge for most instructors. So this is the big question here. If you have to shave off an area to save time, which again, we always preface this with, of course, we're always, adhering to the fidelity of the program, but let's just say you have to shave off a little bit of time. Where do you do that safely? Where have you been able to do that and still feel like you're, not compromising the fidelity of the program?
Right. And I think it depends on when you start to notice things start to slip. Do you have an opportunity to try and get caught up before you take your lunch break, or is it start to slip away in the afternoon? And so some of it, I think, depends on how you format your class. I always try to break after worsening signs and symptoms, talking from a blended perspective, obviously, to have lunch then before we go into crisis, because that's also usually it's a good chance for everybody to take a breather. And then as you get into crisis, things tend to slide a little bit in the afternoon. So from an afternoon standpoint, one of the things that I'll do is I'll dispense with scenario 3. I'll be honest with you, and I get rid of that and the breakout room concept there, and instead spend a lot more time doing the same type of work that you do with scenario 3 and really break down the shining a light sequence. We'll do a recap on one and really give them a chance to dig in and start talking about signs and symptoms and noticing the context clues. So having people look for the funeral card, having people look for that kind of stuff to get an understanding, and the missed opportunities, and what would you say differently to your dad if you were in Jeremy's shoes? And then the same thing for 2 and 3, and looking for those opportunities, the helpful, unhelpful stuff, myths and misconceptions, because it comes after that whole true, false, myth, fact kind of thing. So we tend to do that there because that will save some time. We already talk about substance use when we go through breaking down Frida's thing. And so real quick, recapping the slide that has the recovery position. I mean, that should literally be 30 seconds, maybe, instead of whatever it's allotted for. I will dispense with the second part of the neighbor's video. Depending on how the time is going, I'll dispense with the neighbor's video completely, because I think that the focus on the experience that people have with the auditory hallucination exercise and that demonstration is more impactful because it's more directly involved than watching yet another video. Because then we talk through that experience as well. And so it's some of those kind of things where we're trying to condense and we're trying to save time. And ultimately, I'll pivot from asking questions and trying to get more interaction and get more perspective to more of a presentation. And I'm giving you this information and giving you this material to just kind of keep the train moving. And that's me. That's what I do. I'm curious because I'm certain that there are other people that have different perspectives.
No, thank you. I like that. In terms of the substance use, so this new curriculum, I did find as well, one way to, again, be able to comfortably kind of move through that substance use slides without putting too much time into it, as you said, is they have included in the new manual, the SAMHSA toolkit. And there's a page number we're supposed to call out particularly, and I've earmarked it in my manual. I'll put it in the chat box before today's meeting is over. Because I'm going to start kind of including that, like, hey, there's some excellent information in your manual that will link you to the SAMHSA toolkit, and I've pulled that up before. It's a fabulous toolkit. So again, I agree with you. National Council really trimmed down the substance use part in this new program, which, for better or for worse, it is what it is. We have some time to talk about it, but I think there's so much substance that gets missed in that. So yeah, if we can kind of move through it, in the rate, but still give them some substance and somewhere else to go. I think I like that idea. I agree with you on that. The other thing that I do with the neighbors video, a lot of times, because it's 11 minutes long, which, man, when you're at your end of your day, it's like, holy cow, I do not have 11 minutes to give up for this video. So what I will do a lot of times is I will summarize like the first 4 or 5 minutes, because the first 4 or 5 minutes is really just him. Okay, so I'm setting the scene for you here. There's a guy sitting in his apartment, demonstrating a lot of those psychosis symptoms that we talked about, blah, 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 blah. So I will sometimes save some time doing that too. That has helped. And then I think, like you said, there are times where I do have to kind of keep that dialogue limited to what happens in the chat box, invite people to put their feedback in the chat box. And then I have my kind of respond to that, so I can kind of keep moving through. They still get an opportunity to ask questions. They still get an opportunity to share their opinions and thoughts and questions, etc. But not having that open dialogue in the classroom can sometimes really help, recoup some time that has been lost. Anybody else, any of the other instructors want to add? Oh, Pat.
I was going to say, one of the places where I've tried to save some time is segment 2 when we do it virtually, because the participants have just gone over all of that material that we're talking about. So we have a tendency to move through that a little bit more quickly and just kind of go through the true false answers rather quickly, and condense that exercise about, where might they use it in their community, or how might they see themselves using it, and maybe just get feedback from a couple people very quickly. So, and again, I kind of went through evaluations to look at what individuals had to say. And that was one of the areas they said, why are we spending so much time on this when we've just gone through this? So that's an area where I'll save time. Sometimes I will do kind of the opposite of what Jeremy does, in terms of I won't do the auditory hallucination exercise and talk about having them look for what's going on with the individual in the psychosis video. So just a couple areas there.
Yeah, Keith.
Yeah, I had one real quick too, and I can't remember who it was I was presenting with. It was the first time that I had thought about this, but the person I was presenting with suggested that we combine the first two pieces of Shining the Light and show both of those video chunks back to back, and then debrief them together, which I thought made some sense. Now, you got to watch how long the debrief is around that, but those two kind of blend nicely into each other, and you can talk about that as a package as opposed to two different individual activities.
Good idea. Yeah, Jeremy, I like it. Yeah, that's a good idea, Keith. I like that. I like Jeremy. So good thought too about the modeling, the effective introduction. An effective introduction is really quick, right? I mean, we want to be efficient, and
you lose time immediately in the beginning of your day.
Oh yeah.
That happens. And I think that's a great point, Keith. And I usually do 2 and 3, because we use 1 as sort of the example of how to set the tone, so that they have a better idea of what to look for and what they're expected from the biggest point. But I think either way, you can combine 1 or 2 or 2 and 3 and save time, because otherwise it gets incredibly tedious.
Yeah, I didn't mean to read your text or chat message and then say that. So sorry.
Oh no, you were great, because it reminded me that I actually do it the opposite way, but it's still the same concept. Because when you're doing it, breakdown 1, then breakdown 2, then breakdown 3, I think that you lose some of the effectiveness and the impact of the video, because it becomes tedious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will say too, in terms of just time saving up front, I tend not to I don't do an open in a virtual setting. I don't do the open introduction piece. I say, please introduce yourself in using the chat box, because we will absolutely see it. Give me your name, where you work, and what's something that you hope to learn from the class. And the reason why I use that question is because, first of all, it gives me an opportunity, obviously, to kind of figure out where I need to focus my time on. And then also, oftentimes people will reveal at that time that they have lived experience, which is really good to know up front, so that I can be sensitive to that as I'm moving through. And then it also gives me, I feel very comfortable, Pat, not doing that slide. I think it's slide 13, the one that says, how does this impact your community? That I don't do that slide, because I feel like, I've kind of talked about that. I've kind of touched on that, how's this going to impact your community, etc. And one of the other things I will say, so regarding the auditory hallucinations, so I will say, in defense of the auditory hallucinations, because I do like it, I will say I like it better in person than I do virtually. It's a little clunky virtually. However, in like looking back at my evaluations over the years, from doing the trainings, 9 times out of 10, that gets the highest markings. Like, people really
I called it a minute ago. I just wanted to call. It's asking for any promotional codes, and I wasn't sure if they were.
Help her out there. And I do think, because I feel like the schizophrenia is probably one of the most misunderstood and the most stigmatized of the conditions that we talk about. So it tends to lead to a lot of good discussion. I think I'm probably a little biased as well, because that happens to be the population that I've served, is primarily folks that are chronically and persistently mentally ill. So, those are just my 2 cents. I will say that, from the evaluation standpoint, people really do appreciate and do seem to elicit a lot of empathy after that, after doing the auditory hallucination exercise. But I think, again, we all try to figure out, because I think the instructors are put in such a challenging position to have to get all this content in. There's a lot of content. So we have to, I think I appreciate you guys kind of sharing these tips, because I think we do have to see, where can we do it and still adhere to fidelity, but still get everybody out on time, because we have to, we need to get everybody out too. And yes, Jeremy, I think incorporating the self-care piece is a huge, let's incorporate that as we go along, so that doesn't just become a redundancy at the end. If we have to, if it's 327 and we're just starting section 7, like we can do it with a clear conscience, right? And say like, okay, here's some information we've talked about self-care, etc. So yeah, I like that. Anybody else want to add any other areas? Oh, yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, you had shared that. So Pat, this question is for you. I'm going to address this to you. So what is the part of your day where your participants' energy starts to wane? And have you done something in response to that to bring the engagement back up?
Well, I guess it depends who the participants are, right? We all have that morning, afternoon, evening people. I think one of the things that I always do is generally, before we really get into the meat of the program, I will have individuals do some stretching and a few quick 3 deep breaths. And I do that oftentimes when we're transitioning activities. It's something I do in in-person classes. So I've just transferred that to the virtual classes as well. So, when we get back from lunch and everybody's kind of feeling maybe a little bit lethargic, again, doing the stretching and the breathing. So whenever I need people to refocus, talk to people about stand up, stretch, do what you need to do, to keep yourself kind of in motion throughout the day. But certainly after lunch is one of those times. And I think one of the things that I always say is when we get back is it's amazing how quickly some half hours go compared to others, right? And I also find, some of you that have taught with me know that I like to use humor where it's appropriate, just because that kind of gets people back in as well and draws them back in. So one of my favorite new ones is talking about how, this morning I ran out real quick and I ran into McDonald's and I was hungry, but I wasn't really hungry. So what did I do? I just grabbed a kid's meal. And boy, I don't know why his mom was so mad. So it also gives you a feeling, you can kind of tell if people are still with you or not as well. So just some things like that as we go throughout the day to kind of keep them engaged. But a lot of it I find really depends on the participants. And sometimes using the chat box to remind them that, we need the cameras on or we need them to stay focused and engaged can help as well.
Yeah, I think those are good suggestions. Thank you. Ruth, do you have any tips that you've used or?
Yes, I'm like Pat, after lunch, that's the hardest to get people engaged. I can see that everybody's ready for their siesta. And I do mention that and they all agree, yes, it's time, to take a little nap here. So what I do is also with virtual, I just stay focused with the participants. And if I see that I'm losing them, I literally will stop right where what I'm doing and said, okay, everybody, let's just get up. Let's get, some stretching here. And that really helps. It helps a lot. Also, to get them engaged, I do it in the chat box for answers. I do the cascade method. So, I just tell them at the count of 3, everybody, type in your answers. And that literally helps them to focus on something else than the presentation. Mm-hmm. So that's another way to engage the brain in a different way. Also, too, I try to have them talk to me. And, interact, if it's a small group, I just ask them, okay, who wants to, answer this question? And then just again, back into the humor, I just say, if I'm like the auctioneer. So if I see any movement, I'm going to call on you. And then everybody's paying attention. So that's another thing that I say to them. But I do try to get them engaged one way or the other, because it is very, very difficult in the afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, in the virtual, one thing that I tell people is I say, feel free to stand up and stretch if you need to, just move off to the side of the camera. Otherwise, all we're going to see is your midsection. And I'm sure you don't want that on the camera. So I invite them to move over again, kind of incorporate that humor. And then when I'm in person, I always say, feel free to move about the cabin. If we're, if during the training, if you just need to stand up and walk in the back of the room, that's fine. It's a really long day. And I always remember what our presenter from our summit, I can't think of her name's evading me right now, but one of the national instructors whose suggestion was that adult learners need engaged every 4 minutes. So every 4 minutes, an adult learner needs to be engaged in terms of, being asked a question, having an opportunity to do an exercise, some way or the other every 4 minutes. So again, I kind of always remember that as best I can, honoring time as well, knowing that I'm on a time crunch also. But I do always that's one thing I'm noticing, going back in person, I'm kind of missing the chat function because we did have the opportunity to engage people and it didn't take up time as much, but they still could do it. So something kind of interesting to watch. For anybody else have anything else they add? Rick?
With the in-person is that I do bring candy and chocolates. So when I see that there are already, I'm losing them, then I would just say, well, guess what? I brought some chocolate. Who wants chocolate? And then the basket, just passes around, and they all obviously said I needed something to keep me perked up. So that's a tool that I learned from someone else when I was taking a course for the first time. So it does help.
That's a great one. I like that. Rick, were you going to add one?
I was, and I changed my background on purpose. So people love to talk about their pets. And so when we find them waning and kind of getting off whatever to bring them back, I will, particularly for doing virtual, and I'm going to move my head just slightly. I'm going to put my hand, I don't know if this is Leo and Casey. Leo does not have a left eye. And so if they're really, really off in space, so to speak, I'll ask them to look very closely at the picture and see if there's any other than the color, any major difference in the dog, to try to really get them focusing in on the screen, because it is tough to look at your screen for all that time and keep their attention. So that's just something that I've tried, and it seems to work pretty well.
I like that. That's a great one.
Now that you mentioned that, I think that's a great point, Rick. And one of the other things that I try to do is when we're having moments where we're looking to engage and we have discussion, I stop sharing my slides so that the visual changes for them in their window. And it's not just constant bombardment of PowerPoint, because death by PowerPoint should be a capital offense. And so just having that sort of visual in and out, that perspective kind of change can try to help.
Yeah, I like that. It's a good one. All right. Yeah, thank you, everybody, for sharing. So Julian, this question is for you. If you're still with us, right? Yeah, Julian, you still there?
Yep, I'm here. Sorry.
Excellent. Oh no, that's all right. So what do you do to ensure a smooth delivery with your fellow instructor? So you're assigned to somebody you did not select. How do you ensure a smooth delivery?
Like,
not to throw you on the spot, but
no, I just was finishing a banana. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No, I think the biggest thing for me is preparation. Is so having not I know everybody has a really busy schedule, so I try to be conscious of that, but I think it's very helpful for me to have at least a couple of phone calls, maybe a Zoom meeting, and to talk through what my style of teaching is, and what are the key kind of things that I'll push on, and maybe where I deviate a little bit from from the slide deck. So I really appreciate you guys sharing your thoughts about the auditory hallucination one. I admittedly don't like it. I don't do it. And I will share that with a co-instructor beforehand. Like there's certain things that I just find that they work better for me, but I'm open to modifying or adjusting. So I think good, consistent, clear communication, having a good plan, those things really smooth out some bumps. And then obviously there's always going to be bumps. So and just try to be flexible on the day and have a backup plan. If something happens with a participant, who's doing what, where are we going? If my internet drops out, this is what the next step is. We'll exchange phone numbers, just kind of having like, I tend to over plan for stuff and then none of it happens and then it's all good. So that's what I do.
So it's a good place to be. And I did put, I don't know if any of you have seen it, but on the Trello board, I did probably, I don't know, two or 3 months ago, I think I did create just a 1-page checklist form of discussion points for co-instructors, and co-instructor meaning all of us, because we're all right? We're all co-ing with somebody. Again, it just kind of includes, it's my little checklist that I go through when I have that one-on-one prior to the training with my fellow instructor. What's your cell phone number in case everything falls apart? Who wants to share the slide deck? Do you want to do your own videos? Do you want me to do the videos, etc.? Just all those quick little things. Keith, were you going to add something too?
Yeah, actually, I was going to mention, I saw what you had put on the Trello board and put that in the actual form. It seems like I'm working with a lot of new folks. Like this is their first training ever, and so we always do a Zoom call. Like I said, I put it into a form where I just literally type things in. What are we going to do about videos? Or are you doing the hallucination? Or just go through all those bullet points. So thank you for that. Yeah. But I have that, and then I use the timing guide. And we kind of divvy things up and put breaks on it. And after our conversation, I usually then send both of those documents to the co, as well as, collect phone numbers and all that as well. But many times they'll want to see my slides. And so just making sure we're on the same page, et cetera. I've modified just a little bit. And there's 2 places where we go to the participant manual and you have to pick out of the 15 statements which ones are helpful. I just put all those in a slide in the slide deck so that we don't have to go worry about that. And so I point those things out to folks as well. I just had a conversation interestingly with somebody who it is an experience. And I started down my path and it's like, all this is awesome. But for those newbies to have something in front of them that they can go back and refer to between the conversation and the actual training, I found has been very helpful in trying to give them some confidence. And then of course, always, having done it long enough, it's like, which segments are you most comfortable with in terms of content? Because we can always bolster the delivery, but where are you most confident as far as content? And then they take those segments and I take the others. So we work all that out in that tree, but thank you for that list. I use it every time I'm getting ready to train.
Good. And I've started directing all the new folks that I'm meeting with, I'm directing them to that, to say, print this out when you go to meet with your master instructor for these first 3 classes, have this ready, because these are the kind of things that, these are, you have to take charge of this as well. Like here's some things you want to make sure get touched on in that meeting for your own organization, as well as for the smooth delivery of the entire day. Jeremy, I think I saw your hand raised, your digital hand raised over there.
I pretty much, it's a weird thing because Keith said almost all of the things that I was going to say, because we're looking at, both working with your co's where you have other experienced people, as well as the mentorship aspect of us as master instructors working with new and relatively inexperienced in these developmental opportunities. And so all of those different things explaining, working through the philosophies of the teaching styles, but I really think that last part is important, especially when we're working developmentally, is what are you already comfortable with and what do you hope to learn from me? is a question that I like to ask, because we all have our own unique styles. We all have our own things. You know, Keith does the thing with the helpful and unhelpful and the reassurance statements, which I have a version of doing also, because that's an opportunity to teach people how to use the annotate feature and get all Zoom happy and all that stuff, because whatever. It's ultimately, it's about getting buy-in with your co-instructors so that you really present the team aspect. We're all capable of teaching 1, 2, 4, 5, 7. This is my half, this is your half, but how do we present as a team? So those prep meetings are really, really critical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, Keith, too, I like that you pointed out about the timing guide, because I think that's, you know, nothing will throw off a training more than getting off time, getting off schedule. So I think I really spend a lot of time emphasizing, you know, when I do my meeting with my fellow instructor, like, okay, here's the timing guide that I use. So, you know, that, like, if you're good with this, that's the one we'll stick with. So just know that, like, by 10 o'clock, section 3 should really be starting. And then by 10:30, we really should be wrapped up. Yeah, you know, again, I think it just, because then it's all, you know, we have clear parameters. I mean, because conversations can go. I mean, we're all passionate about this. We all, you know, we have so much passion and love for mental health, and that's why we're here. Which is good, but you know, it also can be it can be the biggest struggle then too, is how do we still make sure that we get, you know, deliver a smooth training, get all the content in, and especially don't shortchange section 6 because we're behind, because we really don't want, well, section 6 in adult, section 5 for youth. You know, we want to make sure we're getting that meat and potatoes in there of the training and not lose time. So I think, Ruth, did you have your hand up? Your virtual hand? Did I see that?
Blame
it was
Pat,
Pat.
Ruth.
Oh, Pat, thank you.
Well, I was just going to say, because Keith mentioned this, and people who have taught with me know that this is something that I do also, is I incorporate a lot of the pages from the participants processing guide into my slide deck, because I found that people have a hard time either getting to it, or they don't have, you know, double screen. Even in person, they don't print them out. You know, we ask them to print them out and they don't. My thought is, I know we're not supposed to modify in any way, but it's the content of the course. So I've gotten to the point where I add them in, and it makes it much easier for discussion. It makes things flow much smoother, and it saves a lot of time. So, you know, you can certainly put it on a separate jump drive if you want and go back and forth and toggle, but I figured it's their material. I'm just copying it and adding it in. So
yeah, no, I like that. You know, again, if I'm gonna get you know, nailed for doing something horrible, that'll be the thing I'll get nailed for, right? Like I'm only adding, like I'm inserting one slide, you know, like the slides of your own content in there. So yeah, you know, if I'm gonna get in trouble, that I'll take that one.
well, quite frankly, we're doing what they should have done.
Yeah, right. It should be integrated, right? Just like the scenarios. I mean, those are so. I just had
those as well.
Conversation with another instructor about this. Those scenarios. It's like, why are they not in here? I mean, I guess I understand because they're supposed to be done, you know, in the break rooms, but again, it'd be handy if they were there. So Jay, I see you're coming. After one of my instructors went way over time, and I know that. I know what you might be saying there, because I have been with instructors that have done that as well. I work with how they want me to know that they have gone over. One person said just interrupt, another person said just call me on their cell phone, have algae as the safe word, right? Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you know, again, yeah, I think that's great. Have the discussion up front. You know, we know we're all vulnerable to going over, because we're really passionate about this stuff, which is great. So, you know, let's be upfront about it and just say, okay, you know, what do you want? You know, if I happen to go over, you know, send me a text, and then hopefully they'll take that in invitation as well. You know, okay, and if you go over, I'll call you too. So I don't know. I like that. I like that. So anybody else have anything else they would add? If not, we'll turn it over to, oh, go ahead.
We do real quick.
Yeah.
Now that we're back in person, it's also, I have found very important for us to communicate with our co-lead as far as what we're bringing, what materials, because we do need markers. We do need, you know, those big post posters thingies.
Mhm.
And just, communicate it that way. And because it's the first, we're just getting out of the virtual mode, which is a lot different in person.
Mhm.
We're nervous. Everything looks different. Having to train our brain back again and engaging with real people.
Mhm.
And just to be a helper or assistant to the person, that the instructor, the co-instructor that is there presenting. For example, look ahead as far as, okay, this is a time to write something with one of the magic markers. And you really can't remember that. So just assist them by giving them a marker.
Mhm.
And that helps them think through what's the next step. Because as presenters, we need to look like together
Mhm.
and with no confusion, like we don't know what we're talking about or we don't know what we're doing, which a lot of times we're confused. Oh, this is not virtual, this is in person.
Mhm.
And that really makes the program look more attractive when we're helping each other out.
Mhm. No, I agree. I think that's a great point. And again, there's another, I had put on the Charlie board too, that considerations for in-person trainings. Again, that kind of has on there all those things like the markers, the flip boards, the, whatever, the what things to ask and coordinate. So again, I think that's a great opportunity as well for all of us. If we know we're doing an in-person training, each person, each instructor kind of come to the table with that form and say, okay, you got markers, fabulous. I got Post-it notes. You got hand sanitizer, excellent. We can kind of divvy that up and be, again, as smooth as we, even though we've never, again, I think it's asking a lot of instructors, because there's people I've never met before, and I'm going to spend a day with them and have to look like I'm delivering this seamless training, and I may have never trained with them before. So it is a challenge. So, I think going back to what Julian said, the more we do in prep, by putting it all out there, and like Jay said, look, if we need to have these, even a little bit more uncomfortable conversations, like if I start to go over, what do you want me to do? What can you help me out, and I'll help you out too. Let's put it all out there ahead of time so we can have a better delivery. So I like that. So anybody have any instructors at all? This is kind of the time to open up to the floor. What questions do you guys have? It can be about the smallest of detail to the largest of concepts with this project or with the delivery. Pat, I saw you unmute.
Yeah, I've I have a question in terms of and seeing if anybody else has had this issue in terms of unenrolling people. I've had situations where, I follow the directions, it allows me to unenroll them, but then I have other ones where it doesn't pop up. It won't give me that option to unenroll. I found that typically if the person has, at least open that initial email, that seems to be what triggers it. But I don't know if anyone else has run into that or not, because I've had to go back and ask like the coordinator who's put them in to unenroll them. So I'm just trying to find out if my philosophy is correct, or if anyone else has encountered that.
So what would you do if the alternative, if you can't unenroll them, would you just mark them as not attended then? Like when it comes time to do attendance, you would just mark them as a no-show and accomplish the same thing? Would that work?
So far, because it's always been, I've gone back to like, Chuck has helped me out and taken the person and unenrolled them before the course.
Okay.
That's the only time that I've had that happen. It's always been before the course, and I've always gotten somebody else who's been able to kind of fix it.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't sure if anybody else experienced that. I guess it's just me.
Chuck, well, I keep going back to Chuck, so I'm doing the same thing you're doing, which is just, and or to be honest with you, I don't do anything, and I just mark them as no show.
I guess as long as we have Chuck, we're good.
Right, and unless Chuck leaves, then we're in trouble. But yeah, I just mark them as no show then when the class is over. Like, when it comes time to mark attendance, which I don't know, might be doing them a disservice because that might mess up future enrollments. I'm not sure. But Chuck, you got some expertise on this?
Well, yeah, I can only unenroll at the coordinator level. So when I log in under my account, I can't unenroll either. So I don't have the power to do that. So that's why it's strange. And sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. It doesn't, Yeah, I haven't run into that. It's been pretty consistent for me. If I'm logged in as a coordinator access level, I can unenroll. And even if you can, even if you're under, like any coordinator can just look up the user that you're thinking about unenrolling and do it that way. Because you can't see all the courses, you can't see other coordinators' courses, but you can find the course if you search by user. But I don't think that's the same as your situation though. Yeah, so it's a little strange, but yeah, on the back end, as long as they're not marked as, you know, completing the course, I guess it's fine either way. But just I would be in the same mindset as you. Like, I just want to get this done now, you know, and I don't know why I can't do it, you know.
Yeah, Jeremy, I think so. We just have to make sure that when we do the no-show, that it's saying unenroll from everything. Like, well, you know, you put no-show or cancel, but it just has to, I forget what the exact verbiage is, but I know the really important thing is to say unenroll from all, from everything. That's what will prevent us from getting a charge for that. Anybody else? Oh, either we'll take them out of the class and we don't have to pay for them. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we just, it's that unenroll from all is what will trigger that. So either we unenroll them in the beginning, Pat, which is what, you know, you're trying to do there, or we just mark them as a no-show cancel and then unenroll from everything, and then we're good to go. Of course, then goodness forbid they change their mind or want to join another class, then I'm totally calling Chuck, because or filling out a request assistance form, because then it just gets all kinds of, you know, it just, things get stuck. It seems like there's nothing we can do on our end. And I haven't had much luck. So any other questions? Again, this is just kind of open for everybody.
I'm coming back with one more.
Yeah, good.
Because I'm getting ready to do my first totally full in-person.
Mhm.
And just wanted to know if anybody's done it and any tips that they have on it.
Just make sure that you take everything on that list as far as supplies. You know, I mean, extension cords, I mean, just everything that you have on that list that Bridget sent out. And then be there at least maybe an hour beforehand, just in case there's some glitches, you know, in there, because there will be glitches there. But I think that's just, it's basically, it's just take everything but your kitchen sink.
Yeah, I had more concern. I'm sorry, I had more concern about the content itself and the length of the content.
It is very difficult. I've been teaching in person for almost most of mine have still been in person, because a lot of them are law enforcement, and just having as much pre-populated on those flip charts as possible. Get your videos already set up, because one IT glitch and it really does throw pretty much the whole program off. So everything from there, your name, the parking lot, the A through Z activities, all the algae already on there, on those flip charts.
That's a good idea. Pat, one other thing that I did too that was I found to be helpful for the I forget what they call it, the diagnosis gallery walk or whatever they call it. What I did is ahead of time, I actually did eating disorders. This was for the adult class. I did the eating disorders and I kind of broke it up in like a grid, like, and I put headers, and I went ahead and made headers for all of the different ones. So that instead of them having, because there's a lot, they're asking like 7 different things on there. There's no way. And in the screen, the PowerPoints, I will say what's very challenging, what was very challenging in person is the slides are so small. They violated every PowerPoint presentation rule out there, because the participants in the back of the classroom were like, what is that? I can't even see that. And one of the things is that gallery exercise where they have like all 7 things on that screen. It's so hard to see. So I went ahead and wrote them up as a template, like each little sheet. And then I can say, okay, your depression, you know, your team is whatever, pass them out, fill them out, and then away we went. And then take a really hard look, Pat, at those exercises at the beginning and consider, or not just exercises, but those slides, see where you can condense, because you can totally combine things. And there's a lot of repetition from that first section into what we talk about in the afternoon. There's a lot you can definitely say, and we'll be talking about this, and we'll be talking about this further. You know, you can slide through quite a bit of that, because I mean, they put a lot in that first half. that I think
On
was
the-
very repetitious.
On for the gallery walk, I laminate everything I possibly can. And then on the back of it, I have the instructions, because there are quite a few things you're asking them to do. And it really does speed up the process.
That's a good, yeah, I like that idea. And that first video, that was one of their promotional videos, which is fabulous, which is the why do with the awkward conversation. I did it this time. I will not do it next time. I think it's like 5.5 minutes. I want to say it was like 5.5 minute video. Again, I feel like I almost could maybe run that prior to the training. Like as everybody's coming in, maybe have that running. You know, that's a video that's been around for a long time. It was one of their promotional ones forever. It was tough, you know, again, I want to make sure that I have adequate time for my latter part of my day, because that's where we're really getting into the, you know, the application piece. So I'm not so sure, I haven't done it yet, but that's my plan is to probably just maybe play that in the background as people are filtering in, instead of doing that particular exercise. It just took up a lot of time. Jay?
I wonder if that's a kind of video maybe we can send out in one of our pre-emails. Is that a no-no to do something like that with the copyrights and everything? Or that seems like that would be a nice prep the day before or something.
Everything's a no-no.
Yeah, everything, you know, again, it is a, you know, it is a promotional video that has been around for a long time. In fact, I used to include it in my emails. I will say that, you know, when I was doing my marketing and, you know, to folks, I would use it as a marketing tool. Again, because it kind of just, it sets the stage for the why. So, you know, I think that's another opportunity too. I mean, I think so long as they get it, they see, you know, so long as they're seeing it. Again, I think it's just all about where do we, you know, how do we get all of this in and still adhere to the fidelity of the program and make it all work. Jeremy?
Yeah, this is where there's some differing philosophy, because I think that I would play that video maybe and find that more of a discussion starter, because that seems relatable to like, oh man, I don't really know how to handle that, as opposed to going through the process of the A to Z exercise, which could be condensed as a time saver, still relative, but we don't need to fill out a chart of 26 letters. You know, that's where it gets to an elementary school kind of exercise. Carrie's
I
like,
100% agree. And hello, I'm sorry I joined late. I was in a VA visit meeting. I find, I'm trying to find the right words here. I find the A to Z exercise and the way they've constructed what ends up being 30 minutes for this gallery walk to be insulting to adults. It is childish. And I understand wanting people to be active and participatory, but when you're looking for places to cut and things to do and ways to have people engage, there's smarter, for me, places to cut. I think you can do an A to Z type of thing verbally or as a group, and not break out into groups with paper and this and that and have it be like craft time. I also heartily don't think, especially with a large class, that we need to make posters of disorders when they have a participant processing guide that has a page with sections for them to write out the information and has the quick notes. If we can work in groups and take 15 of the 30 minutes, and each table or whomever has a disorder, and they, between the quick note slides and their book, they answer those questions, and you go through it, and they have 3 minutes, a 3-minute exercise to gather the extra information, and you hit it table by table. You're doing 15 minutes there instead of 30. What are they going to do? You're wasting 7 or 8 sheets of paper. How many trees are we going to kill, first of all? And then it's not, they didn't come for an art class. Like, I think you get the information down and you can have a discussion. And then you're saving time to not at the end of the day have this Sophie's choice of, do I watch the neighbor's video or not? Or do I which people end up doing. I've been in classes with folks where we're cutting scenarios. I have yet to teach a single course with any one of you, as I'm not ratting anyone out. And you're all like, shut up, Kira, you're new. But listen, I haven't taught a course with any of you where we've done all 3 scenarios. And in fact, I've been with several of you master instructors who are just like, I can't even do the scenarios. I'm not pointing at you, Jer. I wouldn't do that to you. You're my best friend. So I wouldn't do that to you. But we're doing the scenarios for the veterans pilot. And we were like, how are we going to get these in? Because we've got to do it for the pilot. And I'm looking at some of these other things. I'm like, geez, you should see how much crap they have packed in. It's mind poof. So that would be my take, is like, I want people to participate. And I think in person, you get people talking more even than you do when they're on video. So now we're going to have these exercises where it's where they're, arts and crafts time, which I love, by the way, but because, Jeremy has a thing where he puts coloring and stuff on the table so that they can draw because they're not twitchy like ADHD, which is a great way to manage ADHD, coloring and drawing notes. So that's very smart. We don't need to do those things. So I personally love the awkward conversation video. It's a way that I have flushed out section 2 in virtual to use it as a way to make that more approachable. So I wouldn't want to cut it.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, it is definitely a good video. There's no doubt about it. It definitely gets that conversation started. I guess just kind of a matter of where we put it, where we expose them to it, or where we integrate that in, and I guess how we use that. But I like your suggestion about doing the gallery walk using the PPG forms and taking notes on there. I like that idea. The only issue I'm running into with the PPGs is nobody's printing them out, and I'm certainly not printing them out. That was my doing the one in, the first in person with this new curriculum. It's like, yeah, that kind of turned into a little bit of a interesting conversation. You're not printing them out. I ain't printing them out. I'm giving you the digital copy.
75-page document that you need 4, maybe 5 pages out of, really.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I did start pulling out certain pages. Yeah. And we compromised on some pages, and then I actually have just like these little notepads that I give to everybody, then just little things with my pens. So I found those real cheap at a discount place. So I have a box full of those. So that works too. But but then there again, if we do use those papers, if we do print out those diagnoses forms, be a few extra ones, but that's good. So what's Pat, you have another question. Feedback on the self-care action process at the beginning. Yeah, I ended up, what I found is, hey, I know I'm going to be talking about this in section I think it's section 10 now, is the last one. So it was basically, so this is important. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this as we go through, and then we're going to revisit this again. It was more of like a introduction rather than, rather than doing the whole thing. Thank you, Pat. Other Pat for joining us. Hey, there's a police academy. Hi, everybody. Thank you for inviting us in. Right. Yeah, I think those are good suggestions. Anybody else that has done the in-person, the new full in-person? I said, I will send out that page in the processing guide, because I must have put it in my other area that has that SAMHSA toolkit. Again, it was a great page, so I will definitely send it out to everybody in an email after this. Or probably post on Connect team.
A chunk of in-person classes coming up down south, right? Looked like those got put up on Connect team recently. So get ready.
Yeah, more to come. They definitely take way more prep, and then some of the prep is just because of the new slide deck. You're just learning a new slide deck, but certainly a lot of planning ahead for all those other little nuances. Any other questions? So Terry, you just finished your training. Congratulations. We got another instructor. Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Thank you. Everybody.
We're going to be touching base after this and getting her up and running and ready to jump in with us. So welcome aboard. How did the training go for you?
I thought it was wonderful. Yeah, the trainers were great, and the group, yeah, it went well.
Good. Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions about any with the anything to do with the project in terms of questions with the project processes or anything like that? Questions? I will share with you some dates coming up since I have you here. I am going to do another May video. But just so you are aware, let me find my cheat sheet. So Janet, correct me if I'm wrong here, but September 21st is going to be our summit at the Columbus Zoo. So it is not the Cincinnati Zoo. It is in fact Columbus Zoo, which makes more sense. I think I misspoke on that last Connect thing. So mark that down. That'll be from 10 to 3. We have a guest speaker planned for that. Should be, in fact, in lots more planning to come, but it should be a fun day to get together to see everybody. We do have the let's see, what's our other date? Let me find here. The virtual lunch on the Facebook page is 6/24 from 12 to 1. And again, that is led by Martin. Our marketing person has kind of pulled that together and sent the invitations for that, but we would love to have some instructors there. It goes out, the invitation goes out to anybody that's been certified as a first aider under this project. So it's a great opportunity for the first aiders to touch base again with some of the instructors, and we do, Martin facilitates some discussions, and it's somewhat casual environment, just a chance to stay engaged with the project. And then our next instructor gathering is July 27th from 12 to 1:30. So those are just some additional dates coming up. Janet, do you want to add any additional dates, or those the?
I think you got them all, Bridget.
All right, we got them. Well, again, thank you guys for your time, for coming to do this today. Hopefully it was helpful. And please do shoot me an email and let me know if you find this to be helpful, if this format is helpful of doing Q&A like this, if there's a different format you think might be more helpful. If you, again, just any thoughts, because we're here to support each other and support, you as instructors. So if there's anything we can do to help make that a better process for you, just let us know and we will be happy to do that. So otherwise, take care, enjoy your day, and thank you guys for joining me. Bye-bye.